I'm Bianca Cotton, host of Behind the Confident Smile, where we inspire women to walk in love, live in hope, and be healed from past hurts. Thank you for tuning in for our season premiere, where we are sitting with Jennifer Bush, where she will be talking about her journey of overcoming obesity and what it took to lose over 250 pounds. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here, to reconnect with you after a couple of years. So thank you for having me on.
Of course. Thank you for willing to talk about your journey of losing over 250 pounds. So let's journey back.
Okay.
We're going to go back to childhood. When you were a child, what is your earliest memory when you think about weight and size and image?
Probably just recognizing, starting in about the second or third grade, that I was larger than the other girls. We used to have something called Twin Day, and trying to find an outfit that I could match with my friend was difficult because I was larger and, she was a tiny little thing. So from the very beginning, I knew that I was, larger. It started with probably because I had really bad asthma as a child, and so everyone was telling me, sit down, don't run too much. I was also on steroids because of my asthma. So it's a very, very early memory of hearing my parents talk about my weight. And even my sisters were also, smaller little girls, that, I was larger than, or not normal, in terms of my weight.
So when you were listening to your parents talk about your weight, what did you hear?
It was very much I don't want to call it an argument, but my mom was very much like she wanted a more patient tone with me. Like she wanted to be very supportive and, understood that she didn't want to necessarily be restrictive of me and what I could do or not eat. And if it was going to be that we were going to go on a quote unquote diet, then everybody would have to do it. It wouldn't be that she was going to single me out in any way. And he had more of a harsher tone that, you just need to tell her, like she's got to exercise, she's got to eat right. And my mom was very much, well, we've got to support her and make sure that she still feels loved and let her know like there's nothing wrong with her. We just want her to be healthy. So that was probably a source of contention with my parents.
And at this time, how old were you?
Again, probably like 7 or 8.
7 or 8.
When I'm hearing these conversations between my parents.
So when you reflect on that time as a 7 or 8-year-old, how did that make you feel about yourself?
Well, I mean, one, it made me feel like I didn't want to be a source of tension, between my parents. Like, this is what they're, and of course, adults argue about different things, but, I'm the source of them talking, but also it made me feel almost like, my dad, did he just not really like me? Because why is this thing that he's harping on so much to the point that he's arguing with my mother about it? Does he actually like me? And then that somewhat turned into, does he actually love me? Because he's so just adamant. Like, that's the conversations that I'm having with my father about my weight, even at 7 or 8 years old.
So as you continued in your adolescence, did the conversations continue, increase, decrease? What was that like?
It was continual, especially because I continued to gain weight. There was probably, after 8, there was never a point where I lost any weight or I became, quote unquote, into a normal size. So they definitely increased. I think at one point my dad did back off a little bit and let my mom kind of take the reins. And I went to, it was a child obesity camp thing that I went to for a summer. And it was focused on nutrition and focused on exercising. So it was a very positive space. And I would say that's probably the only time that it kind of slowed down because my weight gain at that point did stop. I wasn't gaining weight. But of course, the summer is over and you're not spending all day exercising and focusing on nutrition. You're back to school where there's donuts and chips and all these other things, right, that you're eating. So as I continued to get older and go through adolescence and then into a teenager, those conversations definitely continued.
So as you go into teenagehood, which typically is like the dating era, right? And did you find that your weight impacted your social life or your dating life?
Absolutely, especially after I switched schools. So originally was going to a small private Christian school up until about the 6th grade. But all of those boys I had grown up, I had gone to that school since I was 2. So, they just knew me, so it really didn't matter, I guess, to them. But as I got into this new school and then on into high school, my dating life was non-existent. I ended up actually meeting someone at the church I was going to at the time, and he was also a larger guy, but he was the only person that I dated while I was in high school, and we did end up going to prom together. But there was always this thing where, especially even after I got to college, where, it just seemed like I was just in the background that, in terms of wanting to be romantic, men were not trying to date me. Of course, they wanted to be friends, but didn't really have a lot of dating life. I think I dated maybe one person in college, but that was pretty much it.
How did that sit with you?
Well, it of course affects your self-esteem to the point where it's like, okay, like, yes, I know I'm larger, but I'm a nice person. I'm smart. Why is it that men appear to seem like they're not attracted to me? And certainly my source is not from validation from others, but of course you want to be loved and appreciated. Everybody needs that, even, romantic relationships. So definitely was a point where I felt rather depressed and down because I just couldn't understand why it seemed like, men weren't interested. Did you ever share your feelings and thoughts with your family and your friends? Like, nobody want to date me. Like, what was that like or not like? Definitely had that conversation with my mother and said, and she's always just been my biggest cheerleader. Even the way that she kind of approached my weight was that she was just concerned about my health and concerned, about me. But having that conversation with her to say, I don't get it, I don't understand it, mommy, like, and she just, said, the right person will come along who will love you for you. And, that didn't come to fruition necessarily, but she was probably the only person that I had a very honest conversation with. I didn't really talk to my friends about it, just feeling embarrassed that because they were dating, certainly after we left college, a lot of them were actually getting married at that time. And so it was never really a conversation. And again, I dated after post-college, dated some folks, had a few serious relationships. but it was still always like, okay, it seems like I have other friends who are, going on a date every week or something like that. And it seems like, okay, maybe once or twice a year, there'll be someone who seems like they're interested in me.
Did this journey of not being chased after, in a sense, cause loneliness in you? And what was the effects of that, if so? It caused that?
I don't think it caused loneliness. I have always had a good group of friends and a solid group of friends. It was probably more so when it was, a couples thing or a wedding or something like that, where you want that companionship and you want somebody with
that
you.
Plus one.
Yeah, that plus one, that it felt more lonely. But in my day-to-day, very close with my family. I've always been very involved in church. So I didn't really feel lonely, but I felt a sense of wanting to have a connection to someone.
Yeah. So we are in college now, graduating college. At what point in your journey, as you are trying to manage your asthma, you like, my weight continues to increase. At what point did you start saying, let me try this diet or that diet, or I'm in acceptance of this is my state of being?
Definitely in college was in that sense of acceptance. I wasn't trying to do anything. I mean, I think my weight certainly increased because for the first time I'm on my own and I can do what I want. The cafeteria has unlimited, options, right? Even, the little restaurants, Tommy's, they had everything right there. So I was not in this point where I was like, no, I'm not trying to actively do anything to lose weight. It wasn't until post-college that I think it refocused my mind, that I was like, okay, this is getting out of hand, and I need to try to do something.
In that moment, post-college, what led you to this is getting out of hand, and what did you weigh at that point?
There were a couple of different things. One was not being able to find a job. So, I worked hard, both of my parents are educators. Like, this was the end goal, right? For you to graduate college and for you to get a job like that.
Right.
And me not being able to find a job, but knowing that I'm qualified, again, I'm smart. There's something here. There has to be some reason. Even, getting calls from recruiters and it sounding like things were going to go well until I got to, because of course interviews were in person at that time. And then it seemed like, nope, it would never work out. So at that point, I'm like, okay, something's got to give. I didn't work this hard to be at this place and not be able to find a job. And then secondary to that, stepping on my scale and getting an error, which essentially meant that the maximum weight that my scale would take was 400 pounds. So if it can't read my weight any longer, then I am now over 400 pounds. And that was a shock to the heart. Like, how am I at that point? And it seemed like it just creeped up on me. So at that point, it was like, okay, you've got to do something different. I didn't know exactly how much I weighed at that point, but I knew that it was larger than 400 pounds.
I'm Ricky Watson, and I'm inviting you to join me for the series premiere of the new CAN TV original program, Critical Conversation. Each month, I'll share space with special guests who, like you and me, are on their journey of self-discovery and deeper understanding. Join the conversation on CAN TV, cable channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
Take us into that moment, right? You step on the scale, you get an error, and you step off. What was your immediate?
I cried. It was so emotional. I, again, probably subconsciously knew it just because I knew, the pants getting a little tighter. Something that people actually don't know with weight is that your feet actually get larger. So even currently right now, I wear a 6.5. But at that point, my feet had gone from a 9 to a 10. And so I was like, okay, no, my shoes are getting tight, my pants are getting tight. So in the back of my mind, I knew I was getting larger. But to actually see like over 400 pounds, like that is, they even call it's not obesity, it's super morbid obese at that point based on your BMI. And I'm shorter, I'm only 5'1". So it was a very emotional moment to how could I have let myself get to this point. So there was a lot of depression, a lot of just, I guess, self-hate. Just how could you do this to yourself? You're better than this. You're smarter than this. How could you have done this to yourself?
Wow. So after that moment, when you were like, how do I come? What do I do next? Did you reach out to a doctor? Did you reach out to your mom? Like, what was the next step after you allowed yourself space to feel how you felt?
That was definitely the next step, to make an appointment with my doctor. I didn't tell anybody. I don't think until I lost the weight did I ever tell anyone, other than, of course, the doctors knew I was over 400 pounds. But that was definitely my next step, to reach out to him. And he had been talking to me, about it, because by that point I had high blood pressure and prediabetes and sleep apnea and all these other things. So he had been talking to me, but I wasn't in that space where, I was truly hearing him to the point where I wanted to do something about it. So at that point, I went back to the doctor. I'd actually not been to see him in about 6 months. And they weighed me, and I think I was 420 or something like that at that point. And I told him I'm ready, whatever we need to do. And because he had told me before, he had a very frank conversation with me to say, I don't want to sign your death certificate. And if you continue at this pace, that is where we're going to end up. And so I said, I hear you. I'm ready. Again, whatever you have in your arsenal to help me lose this weight, I'm ready to do it.
So what did he have to help kickstart your weight loss journey?
So one, went to go see a nutritionist to help me with my food intake, but he also actually gave me it's a headache medicine, so it's off-label, but one of the side effects is it's an appetite suppressant. So my food intake dramatically decreased, but the reason why he sent me to the nutritionist is because it's like when you do eat, you have to eat the right things to fuel your body still. So within 6 months, I lost 80 pounds. Just from the appetite suppressant and changing my food. I actually joined a gym. I'm a big fan of the stationary bike and walking on the treadmill. So I was exercising every day. I was eating right, and then on this appetite suppressant. He did end up taking me off of it just because he didn't want me to become dependent on it. But at that point, I think my body my mind had gotten used to, not eating as much. Plus, I think even the exercise probably just in general felt all around better. And thus, I definitely used food as a coping mechanism. And so by me feeling healthier and happier already, I didn't feel the need to eat as much.
So you 80 pounds down in 6 months and celebrating.
I am celebrating because even like the other point to which I was like, oh my goodness, was Lane Bryant, which was my store. Like, I just absolutely love Lane Bryant. Sometimes even I'll still just go in there and peek and see what they have, even though I can't fit anything in there anymore. But I was out of their largest size, which is a 28 in the store. I think they might have a 30 or 32 online. But the fact that I could not go into Lane Bryant and get something. But 80 pounds down, you know, I'm looking cute in the Lane Bryant clothes. So I'm like, I'm loving this. And that's just even more motivation to keep going. I look back at some pictures. I took pictures like as my journey was going. And I look back at just that transformation from even 80 pounds down. Now I'm 100 pounds down. And just my mindset is just so, oh my goodness, because I when I was at over 400 pounds, I was like, if I could only get to 300, I would be happy if I could just get to 300. But then when I got to 300, if I could only get to 200, like I got this. And then to see for the first time that scale have a 1 in front of it, which I had not seen maybe since, I don't know, 12 or 13 probably, to see that scale have a 1 at the number. And of course, you know, your weight fluctuates. So probably the next day it was back up to 201. But I was like, but I made it. I made it to that 199. But it was just, wow. Like I'm just so excited to continue to lose this weight, because I had tried other things throughout the years, but to see it consistently coming off was only more motivation to see where I could get to.
How long did it take for you to see the 199? Was that a year later, 2 years later?
That was probably about maybe 15, 16 months before I saw the 1. I'm trying to think back. Probably about 15 or 16 months when I was, it might have been a year and a half. So that was 18 months to lose all of that from day one of the journey. So it came off. It definitely came off. And I even say, like, everything happens for a reason. The only reason why I was able to probably stick with it and be consistent was because I didn't have a job. So, of course, when you are working, your mind has to be focused on other things. You're at work, you're probably eating unhealthy things. But because I was able to commit completely to losing the weight, I think that's the reason why. So I'm like, okay, God, like, you know, I understand, like, why this had to happen in this way was so that I could completely focus on my weight loss journey.
It sounds like you were gifted a sabbatical you didn't know you needed.
Yes.
So that you could have a complete transformation. How did, as you think about, like, okay, I'm feeling happier. Like, I am probably at this time looking at myself in the mirror, like, oh, look at her, she looking good, girl. Like, and thinking about, man, I remember when, which wasn't too long ago. What would you say to that 22-year-old self, maybe 22, 23? Around that, maybe
it was later than that. I'm thinking I got down to my it was later than that, because I got down to my smallest right before my 30th birthday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you think about those years, what would you tell the little girl Jennifer about where you are now as we come to a close of hearing about your journey of overcoming obesity?
I would tell her that it's gonna be all right. I thought like, okay, it's kind of twofold. Like I would tell her, one, listen to your mother, because she is right, and she's only here to support you. So while she was being so supportive, it wasn't necessarily because I just wanted to eat the bread and the pasta and all of those things. But listen to your mother, because she, everything that she said would happen will happen. So would for sure tell her that, but also that it's gonna be all right. And even though this journey was tough and it was hard, I am the person that I am today. I'm more sensitive to people who are overweight because I've been there, and I know, and I can be encouraging. So while, I don't regret being 400 pounds, because I look at life differently on the other side of it. There was another point in time where it was like, when I think I reached my breaking point, was because I dropped my phone and it rolled under my bed. And at that point, when you're over 400 pounds, you're like, well, do I really need it? Because it's a task just to get down to the floor and on your knees to pick something up. And so I look at life, even that, like, I'm appreciative that I can get down on the ground and I can get back up with ease. So I don't regret any of it. So even though I would tell her, listen to your mother, because you don't want to be to 400 pounds. But on this other side, I'm also like, it's going to be all right. Even if you got up to 400 pounds, I've lost the weight and I've learned a lesson in that. So it's going to be all right. And your life is good. Your life is going to be good no matter what.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, little Jennifer. Thank you for sharing and your willingness to say, hey, I've been there. And even you've been on another journey of losing weight that you gained in COVID, right? Yes. Like the regain. So thank you. Thank you for opening up a page of your book for us. And we hope that those who tune in feel encouraged to get up and make the first move.
Yeah, and it starts with that one step. And even in my regain journey, what I've also learned with that and would tell to people is, it's okay if you stumble and fall, as long as you get back up, it's okay. So every journey starts with that first step. And go ahead and make that first step. Trust me, it's worth it.
Jennifer said it, y'all. Every journey starts with the first step. Thank you for tuning in for our season premiere. Take care.